Join Forum IAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Hi, my name is Krishnan. Today I'll be doing the Hindu news analysis. These are the 5 articles that are taken up for the discussion, and towards the end we'll analyze previous year questions. So the first article for the day is about Indus Water Treaty. Let's say what this article is talking about. So people generally praise the Indus Water Treaty because it is cited internationally as the best example for cooperation between two unfriendly neighbors. So why unfriendly neighbors? Because we have had several wars with Pakistan, bitter relations, and the treaty itself has laid down a lot of criteria for dispute resolution. But anyways, before we get into the article, I'll tell you shortly about the Indus Water Treaty. So the Indus, three tributaries of Indus, that is the Indus itself, Jhelum and Chenab, will go to Pakistan, and Ravi, Beas, Satluj is for India. So how this water is shared between India and Pakistan? So that is what Indus Water Treaty is about. So what has happened? Why is in news? Because repeatedly Pakistan is blaming India that India is building a dam over it, and because of that we are not getting water. So for that, what they are doing in Pakistan, they are taking judicial recourse. Judicial recourse means they are going to international dispute settlement. So why they are going? Because they are telling India is doing run of the river hydroelectric projects. Because of that, we are not getting water. But what India is telling, we are allowed to do run of the river hydroelectric projects, which is permitted under the Indus Water Treaty. So this is what the dispute is about. So in June, what happened? Pakistan started arbitration at the Hague-based Permanent Court of Arbitration. Why they are going? They wanted to interpret and application of the Indus Water Treaty. Why is happening? Because two run-of-the-river hydroelectric projects on 𝐒𝐻𝐿 which is a tributary of Jhelum, and Ratel, a hydroelectric project on the Chenab. So these two things India is doing. So to stop that, they have gone to the Permanent Court of Arbitration. But India raised objection saying Court of Arbitration is not competent to consider the questions, and India and Pakistan should settle it through neutral expert process. But what the court is telling, the court passed the decision saying we are Permanent Court of Arbitration is competent enough to hear the case, and they rejected India's objections. So the court finally said we are competent to consider and determine the dispute. And so what Pakistan is telling, we'll look into it. So how the future supply of water is going to be? So generally, there is lack of trust, and there's lack of trust between India and Pakistan. So obviously, we'll have to take the judicial way only. But this will not likely address the growing industrial needs of the two countries. So a lot of industries coming up in both the countries. So, and there are food and energy needs also. This arbitration will not take those things into account. So what they are telling, these agreements are vulnerable to climate change. Because why it's vulnerable to climate change? Because what is happening around the globe, and this treaty and all is not taking this vulnerability of climate change into account. So that is why when this arbitrators give award, it will not satisfy both the parties, because of climate change, water amount is reducing. So all those things are happening, right? But arbitrators will not take into effect all those things. So what is the partnering logic? I told you already. Eastern rivers, that is Satluj, Ravi and Beas will go to India, and western rivers, Indus, Jhelum and Chenab will go to Pakistan. But the treaty or the arbitrators, they do not take into account the future water availability. So what the Indus Water Treaty is telling, Pakistan should, it is obligatory to let flow and shall not permit any interference with waters in the eastern rivers. Same for India, that India should not do anything with the western waters, but it can use generation of hydroelectric powers on the rivers and tributaries of western rivers before they flow into Pakistan. So this right is given to India through Indus Water Treaty only. So, but the Indus Water Treaty just talks about it. But the author is telling, with climate change altering the form, intensity, and timing of precipitation and runoff, the assumption regarding supply of water for agricultural process and industrial needs does not hold true. So this is what he's saying. So, but on what principle we look into it? What are the principles of water course? So the partitioning of river itself goes against the logic of treating the entire river basin as one unit. So only if you treat the entire river basin as one unit, you can build its resource capacity. So what is the thrust of Indus Water Treaty? That is, it is the optimal use of waters, which India believes to be the object and purpose of Indus Water Treaty. So what Indus Water Treaty is telling? India thinks Indus Water Treaty tells that the object of the treaty is optimal use of waters. But what Pakistan thinks, it thinks that the purpose of treaty is to give uninterrupted flow of water to Pakistan. So this is a divergent approach. But you can overcome this problem with two cardinal principles of international water course law. So, and they are binding applications also. So what is it called? One is called equitable and reasonable utilization. And the principle not to cause significant harm or no harm rule. So NHR and ERU, if you use these two principles, you can overcome the problem. So what they're telling, there is no universal definition of what ERU amounts to. So the states need to be guided by the factors mentioned in Article 6 of the Convention on the Law of Non-Navigational Uses of International Water Courses, 1997, including climate change. So, but what is NHR? Is obligation which requires the riparian state undertaking a project on a shared water course. If they are having any transboundary effect, they should take all appropriate measures to ensure that there is no harm to another riparian state. So, and they should in fact carry out a transboundary environmental impact assessment. But what states are doing in order to, what countries are doing in order to ensure rapid economic development? The states prioritize ERU over NHR. And both India and Pakistan believe they are consistent with the treaty. So, but what they are doing in situation of conflict between different uses of water, it is suggested in Article 10 of the 1997 Convention to lean on vital human needs in the context of ERU and the NHR. But this vital human needs, no, it is debatable. But what the author is telling is, you include these principles in the Indus Water Treaty and this will help in erasing the differences. So, but finally what you should know, even without its inclusion in the Indus Water Treaty, the ERU and NHR are binding on both the countries as they are customary international law rule and they generate binding obligation to both the countries. So if you include these principles in the treaty, it will ensure predictability to a certain extent. So finally, what is telling in this atmosphere of lack of trust between the two neighbors. So World Bank as a party to the treaty should use its forum to forge a transnational alliance of epistemic communities. So what does it mean? People who share common interests and knowledge to the use of Indus waters. So they should build convergent state policies resulting in the ultimate inclusion of these two principles in the treaty. So finally, what the author is telling, because we saw earlier Indus Water Treaty signed in 1960. So one must revisit Indus Water Treaty because it is a much needed step right now. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about there's a plea in Supreme Court which is asking for criminalization of marital rape. So what has happened? Chief Justice of India has agreed to list early a series of petitions which is seeking the criminalization of marital rape. So why you all know, right, in India, marital rape is not a crime yet. So senior advocates are asking for urgent listing before the bench, which will be led by the Chief Justice. So what they are telling, this is not just about marital rape, this is also about child abuse, and they are seeking a hearing after the ongoing constitution bench session. So the court, that is the Chief Justice, has said that to look into issues like this, 3-judge bench is required, and they agreed to list it early. So, and even the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, for arguing for the union government, has said this case is not just legal ramifications but widespread social impact. So, why is this come in news? Because they are triggered by decisions from Karnataka and Delhi High Courts requiring an authoritative pronouncement from the apex court. They are telling finally the Supreme Court only should tell, because Karnataka High Court has told something and Delhi High Court has told something. So, what did the Karnataka High Court tell? They have told that the husband was liable to be charged for rape even if he has had forcible sex with his wife, and even the Karnataka government has accepted this. So, why did they tell this? Because exception 2 to section 375 of the IPC decriminalizes marital rape. So, if husband is raping his wife and if the wife is not under 18 years of age, it is not rape. But the Karnataka High Court told a man is a man, an act is an act, and a rape is a rape, and even if it is done by husband, then it is rape only, and that man should be brought to trial. But however, a division bench of the Delhi High Court gave a split verdict. That is one person, that is Justice Rajiv Shagter. He stuck down this article. He stuck down this section 375, telling it is unconstitutional. However, what Justice Harishankar is telling, he rejected the plea to criminalize marital rape, and he told that if you want to bring changes in law, that should be done in legislature only, because they will only look into various aspects like social, cultural, and legal. So that is the issue here. And the Karnataka government, it supported the plea to criminalize marital rape, citing Justice J.S. Verma committee. In the Justice J.S. Verma, what he is telling, marital or other relationship between the perpetrator or victim is not a valid defense against the crimes of rape or sexual violation. So just because a person is husband, he cannot sexually violate a woman. So this is what Justice Verma committee said. That was the recommendation. And one of the petitioner of the case, activist Ruth Manorama, she told this exception to Article 375, it undermines women's consent to sex and violated her bodily integrity, autonomy, and dignity. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about the NATO summit. So what is the significance? New members are there. Finland's. So new members, who are they? Finland and Sweden. So they're becoming NATO members. So what it shows, it signals the alliance continues to practice Article 10 of the Washington Treaty signed in April 1949. So what it is telling, member countries can invite other European countries to become members of NATO. So that is still there. And it still keeps Ukraine's potential membership on fertile grounds. And conceptually, it deters Russia from taking steps against members of NATO. And secondly, what is very important, Turkey is no longer opposing Sweden's inclusion in NATO. This is a significant shift, because why Turkey and Sweden had a lot of problems, right? Because the Quran burning and all was going on in Sweden. So there was issues regarding that. But still, Turkey is not opposing Sweden's inclusion in NATO. So, but the final approval remains based on what Turkey's parliament is doing. But Turkish President Erdogan facilitating Sweden's membership shows that Erdogan is desiring to mend relations with the USA, because he wants better relationship with the US, because Turkey's economy is not doing good, and he thinks relationship with the US would help him. So he has scaled down his opposition to Swedish entry. So what was US's stance? US President Joe Biden, in his speech at the summit, extended his support to the alliance as well as Ukraine. So this is seen as very important, because earlier Donald Trump's approach to NATO was drastically different from Biden's. So even Trump had considered withdrawing the US from the NATO, but the current president, that is Biden, he's pitched his support for Ukraine. He's telling, this is the political legacy of my administration. This is not just about resurrecting transatlantic solidarity, but also we need to draw a bipartisan consensus on Ukrainian domestically. bipartisan consensus means everybody should separate Ukraine. So he's telling we don't just want transatlantic solidarity, but also bipartisan consensus on Ukraine. So he's telling this is what we want with regard to Ukraine. So what are the other threat actors to NATO, or what NATO considers as threat to itself? We'll see that. So in the Vilnius summit, the NATO did not hesitate in telling tough things. So they told challenges and threats emerging from China. So that is the most important problem, like they're dealing. So China's ambitions and coercive policies are very wrong, and only that is our problem. And they talked about China's attacks, threats through their cyber operations, and constantly they are giving rhetoric and disinformation which is targeting NATO allies, and they are telling whatever China is doing is a security threat to alliance. So on the NATO summit emphasized that whatever is happening in the Indo-Pacific has become very important for Euro-Atlantic security. So they're telling we are expanding space for Quad countries and other regional countries like New Zealand and Korea. But even as the summit was going on, Russia was not undeterred. They launched a drone attack on Kiev. So Russia is showing undeterred approach to NATO's potential expansion. So they're telling it is in this contestation that is likely to define the future of Eurasian security. So just have a look. These are all NATO countries, and these are all countries that supported our partners like that. So, but these are all member countries. You can have a look here. So these are the number of NATO countries. So what they will do, even if one person attack, they'll all declare war on the country which is attacking the country. So this is NATO. Now let us move on to the next article. This article is about India supporting UN's initiative on the Black Sea Grain Initiative. So what is this about? We'll see what is this about. But first, let us see why is it in news. Because India's voiced its support for the UN's effort in continuing the Black Sea Grain Initiative. So we'll see what is this. So they expressed hope for an early resolution to the impasse. So and why they are coming up with this? Because Russia on Monday had said that it is terminating the implementation of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. So this is a UN broker deal which allowed food exports and fertilizers from Ukraine amid the ongoing conflict with Russia. So we'll see what this is. So what is the Black Sea Grain Initiative? So this is the Black Sea. So it aims to tackle escalating food prices. Why? Because there is supply chain disruption, right? Because of Russia's action. The world's bread basket. What is world's bread basket? It is Ukraine. Why? Because Ukraine is one of the largest exporters of wheat. So because of that, supply chain was broken and food prices were increasing. So to overcome that, United Nations and Turkey, they brokered a deal which was signed in Istanbul. So what is the objective? So initially this was for 120 days. The deal was to provide for a safe maritime humanitarian corridor for Ukrainian exports. So particularly for food grains. What was the central idea? Main idea was to calm the markets by ensuring adequate supply of grains, thereby limiting food price inflation. Because most of the wheat is coming from Ukraine only, and suddenly it is not there. What will happen? Inflation will go up, food prices will go up. So for that, UN is coming up with this Black Sea Grain Initiative. So why is this important? Because Ukraine is the largest exporter of wheat, maize, rapeseed, sunflower seeds and sunflower oil globally. How they are able to do this means they have access to the deep sea ports in Black Sea. So through that, they directly approached Russia, Europe with other importers from Middle East and North Africa. And this initiative has been credited for making a huge difference to the global cost of living crisis. Because what will happen once the food prices goes up, everything else will go up, right? So approximately 9.8 million tons of grains have been shipped since this initiative began. And people were hoarding grains because they thought Russia has invaded Ukraine. So We can make profit by hoarding grains, but that also has come to an end. So what people are telling, this initiative alone cannot address global hunger, but what they're telling, this chance can stop, this initiative can stop the food crisis spiraling further. That is the global food crisis spiraling further because the region is going to scale pre-year levels. So this is what the Black Sea Grain Initiative is. So through this Black Sea, Ukraine will get access to European countries, and here you see Middle East countries and all. They'll go there, and they'll be able to export their grains. So that is what this Black Sea Grain Initiative is. Now let us move on to the next topic. This topic is about extreme heat conditions in 3 continents, especially Europe. So what is happening? Sustained spell of dangerous heat was impacting lives of millions of people across 3 continents. So what was happening in Greece? There was wildfire, which is being augmented by scorching weather and temperature records. Scorching weather is there, and temperature records have been broken repeatedly in United States, Europe, and China. So what experts are telling? Obviously, they are telling this is because of climate change only, driven by the burning of fossil fuels. So they're telling this fossil fuel only has played a key role in worsening destructive weather like the current extreme temperatures. So what the director of France Laplace Climate Institute is telling, this is not one single phenomena, but several acting at the same time. So why is the spike in summer temperature a cause of worry? Because Europe is facing a torrid summer with heat wave conditions expected to continue into August. And this devastation due to extreme weather has been particularly acute in Western Europe, because in this region there are a lot of wildfires, drought, and hundreds of heat-related deaths. So this is ringing alarm bells about looming climate emergency. But even though Europe has witnessed hot summers in recent years, rarely these temperatures have been so high across many regions at the same time. On even July 19, UK posted its highest temperature ever recorded, crossing 40 degrees Celsius, resulting in the government issuing its first ever red alert for extreme heat. And parts of France, Spain, and Portugal recorded temperatures between 42 and 46 degrees. So things are that bad in Europe. So dozens of towns and regions across Europe reeled under what has been described as the heat apocalypse. So it is that hot there. So this has caused widespread devastation this year in Europe. So, and there are wildfire also. However, they are caused by a combination of extreme heat and dry weather. This has destroyed 19,000 hectares of forest in southwestern France, and thousands of people had to be evacuated to temporary shelters. And even Portugal reported more than 250 blazes over a period of 2 days, and 650 deaths due to heat-related illness in a span of 1 week. Neighboring Spain lost 14,000 hectares of land to fires, and 360 deaths were caused by heat, and mostly they were all elderly people. So Italy also, on the other hand, has been dealing under drought because the Po River Basin, which is Europe's food bowl, has not received rain in 200 days. For close to 200 days, they did not get rain at all. So across the Atlantic, temperatures are touching 43 degrees Celsius in some regions, and around 69 million Americans were reported to be at risk of exposure to dangerous levels of heat and heat-related illness. So because in North America also it is getting that bad. So what is the reason behind all these heat waves? Because scientists are unanimous. So there is no disagreement between them. They are telling heat waves are a result of climate change only. And what climate change? Because of human activity. And global temperatures have already risen by more than 1 degree Celsius. A study in UK has shown this, and they are telling a 1 degree rise in temperature raises the probability of the country witnessing 40 degrees Celsius by 10 times. So just imagine if it is for 1 degree itself, it's 40 degree means for 2 degree. The rise in global temperature this year has led to deviations above the normal. by as much 15 degrees in Antarctica. So let's say if it's supposed to be 15 degrees in Antarctica, it was 20 degree, and more than 3 degrees in the North Pole. So this has led to changes in the old wind pattern. So these changes are described as what? Heat dome in Western Europe. So because of this, what happened? Low pressure area became, and that began to attract hot air from Northern Africa. So say in the case of US, what happened? The record temperatures are being linked to changes in the jet stream. So what is jet stream? You might remember, you might have read in geography. So a narrow band of westerly air currents that circulate several kilometers above Earth's surface. So they are only westerlies. So what will happen? While a conventionally strong jet stream, what they'll do, they'll bring cooler air from northern Atlantic. But what has happened in the recent years, jet streams has weakened and split into two, and because of that, it is leading to intense and more frequent heat waves over parts of American continent. So as a result, what happened? All the affected nations have issued alerts and health advisories to its citizens, because obviously their citizens are not used to such temperatures. So how will the extreme heat impact Europe and US over the long term? So in Europe, what people are telling this heat wave, they are renewing calls for determined action on climate mitigation measures. But what is happening in the US, because of the political leadership, especially in Republican states, many of which like Texas also happens to be extreme weather hotspot, they are still reluctant to recognize climate change as the cause of problem. Because what the local politicians are telling, they're asking people to pray rather than acknowledge the role of fossil fuel in triggering extreme weather. So, but in terms of adapting to ongoing heat wave, the US is marginally better placed because majority of the households are fitted with air conditioners. But in UK and Western Europe, people don't have ACs, right? So that is a problem in those countries. So frequency and durations of heat waves are rising, and Europe's energy requirement has gone up because they need AC, right? But it has come at the wrong time, because fuel costs are increasing because the Russian gas has been banned by European politicians, because Russia has invaded Ukraine and they have banned Russian gas. So it's same thing happening in Germany, because there is widespread acknowledgement in Germany now to curb carbon emissions, but you need Russian gas, right? So what Green Party politicians are telling, you buy coal also, but don't go for Russian gas. So all this greater frequency, intensity, and duration of the heat waves have been are leading to incidents of drought in different parts of Europe. So, and what is happening? Winters are ending sooner. Vegetation starts to grow sooner before the snows of winter have replenished the water tables and the rivers. So only after winter their water tables will increase, right? But if vegetation starts to grow earlier, how they'll get water? So this has led to depletion of water tables and increasingly drier soil and shallower rivers. So with the reduction in soil moisture, forest fires are becoming very frequent, rivers are drying. So these are very critical for both agriculture and hydropower, right? So all these things are having effects on harvest and energy security. So what is the way forward? Economies of both US and Europe remain firmly bonded to fossil fuel consumption. They should change this. While Europe has been more vocal about cutting down emissions, they're like, yeah, we are realizing that there are problems. We'll cut down emissions, and they are investing heavily in renewables. But what has happened because of the Ukraine war? There's a disruption in this transition. So what the scientists are telling, world leaders have a clear choice. It's either collective action or collective suicide. So they should choose. Now let us analyze previous year questions. What is blue carbon? Carbon captured by oceans and coastal ecosystems. Carbons, option B, carbon sequestered in forest biomass and agricultural soils. Option C, carbon contained in petroleum and natural gas. Carbon present in atmosphere. This is a very easy question. This is a sitter. The answer is carbon captured by oceans and coastal ecosystems. So you should know what is green hydrogen, gray hydrogen, blue carbon. So if UPSC wants to ask simple questions, they'll ask like this. So just have a look at all those things. Which one of the following is used in preparing a natural mosquito repellent? Option A, Congress grass, elephant grass, lemongrass, and nutgrass. The right answer is option C, lemongrass. So the answer is option C, lemongrass. So they are used in preparing natural mosquito repellent. Which one of the following is a filter feeder? Catfish, octopus, oyster, pelican. The answer is option C, oyster. Which one of the following ancient towns is well known for its elaborate system of water harvesting and management by building a series of dams and channelizing water into connected reservoirs? Dholavira, Kalibangan, Rakhigarhi, and Ropar. So it is there in this question is directly lifted from NCERT. So you will find answers for these there. Like each city has specialized in certain things. Kalibangan for bangles, so on and so forth. So the right answer here is Dholavira, option A, Dholavira. So if you like this presentation, you can subscribe the channel, comment and share it among your friends. You can also follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Telegram and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again tomorrow.